Hey, my name is Tobias Siegel, and I will be discussing how to set up your oxygen tank so you can start using your ozone therapy supplies. These instructions will go over the setup for both an 870 medical tank and a 540 industrial tank for oxygen sources connected to our O3 Elite single ozone generator, O3 Elite dual ozone generator, and our O3 Elite mini ozone generator. If you are using an oxygen concentrator, please view our other video for hooking up your oxygen source using an oxygen concentrator. To view, please visit this link. To begin, you will need to have your O3 Elite ozone generator, oxygen tubing, and either an 870 medical tank and regulator or a 540 industrial tank and regulator. If you are in a different country, please find out what type of oxygen tank and regulator is available because some countries use different models. Because of this, PromoLife offers other oxygen regulators that may fit your tank. Also, please note that to get an 870 medical tank, you will first need a prescription from your doctor. For this video, I will be demonstrating how to connect the 870 medical tank and the 540 industrial tank to the O3 Elite single ozone generator. While I will only be demonstrating on the single, the tanks can be connected to any of the ozone generators. So, for the 870 medical tank, you will first attach your oxygen regulator to your oxygen tank. To connect, simply line up the two holes on the oxygen regulator with the tank and then tighten the T-handle of the regulator with your fingers. Also, be sure the regulator is in the off position by rotating the knob counterclockwise to the 0 position. Then, slowly turn the tank valve on counterclockwise about 1 full turn. If you can hear a hissing sound, there is a leak in the system. You will then need to turn the tank off and turn the regulator on to relieve any built-up pressure. Then try tightening the regulator to the tank and opening the tank again. You can then adjust the flow rate setting by turning the knob until the desired setting shows through the window on the regulator. To turn off the system, close the tank valve and wait for the oxygen to flow out of the regulator. At this point, you should begin to see the gauge on the regulator decrease. To expedite this process, you can set the regulator to a whole number. Once the gauge has decreased, set the regulator dial back to 0. Never try to remove the regulator unless the tank is off and the pressure has been released. If the tank pressure falls into the red on the regulator, you should exchange the tank for a full one. If you are using a 540 industrial tank to connect the regulator, it is important to insert the regulator into the valve connection of the tank at a perpendicular angle before tightening the nut. Make sure it is level or it will leak. You can hand tighten the nut initially, but the last quarter to half turn needs to be wrench tightened with a 1 1/4 inch wrench. Again, be sure the regulator is in the off position by rotating the knob counterclockwise to the 0 position. Then, slowly turn the tank valve on counterclockwise about 1 full turn. Same as before with the 870 medical tank, if you can hear a hissing sound, there is a leak in the system. You will then need to turn the tank off and turn the regulator on to relieve any built-up pressure. Then try tightening the regulator to the tank and opening the tank again. You can then adjust the flow rate setting by turning the knob until the desired setting shows through the window on the regulator. It is important to note that the 540 industrial regulator does need to be wrench tightened. If this does not help, shut the system down and contact a service representative by calling the number on the screen. Never attempt to repair a regulator or tank yourself. After connecting the regulator and releasing the oxygen, you can then connect the oxygen tubing to the regulator and the other end of the tubing to the oxygen in port on the ozone generator. To adjust the flow of oxygen, you will use the dial at the end of the regulator. Turn it either counterclockwise or clockwise to hit the right setting of oxygen flow. Ideally with ozone therapy, you want to be within a range between 1 and 1/32 liters per minute. It is also important to note that oxygen tanks are pressurized to 2200 psi. The regulator adjusts the psi to 50, which is the appropriate pressure for the O3 Elite ozone generators. This completes the setup for hooking up your oxygen tank to your ozone generator. If you require any other assistance on how to set up your oxygen tank and regulator or have any questions, please call 888-742-3404.